Ethiopia, UN calls for urgent humanitarian access to Tigray. Communications have been partially restored in Tigray after 4 weeks of armed conflict, but the UN is now calling for urgent access to this region of northern Ethiopia, which is in desperate need of humanitarian aid. Tigray has been deprived of all supplies since November 4, when Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent the federal army to attack the forces of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, the party that runs the region and defied his authority for months. Abiy claimed victory on Saturday after the reported capture of the regional capital Mekele by government troops. But the president of Tigray, Debretsion Gebremichael, who has promised to continue the fight against the invaders, said that clashes continued on Tuesday, near Mekele and near the town of Wukro, 50 kilometers further north. These assertions are impossible to verify from independent sources, such as those of the government camp. Before the conflict, about 600,000 people were totally dependent on food aid for food, and 1 million more benefited from a food safety net, according to the UN Humanitarian Coordination Office, OCHA. 4 weeks of fighting prompted some 45,500 people to flee to neighboring Sudan and displaced an unknown number of men, women and children inside Tigray. These displaced populations are in desperate need of humanitarian aid, and access to the affected regions is essential to understand how many have been forced to flee and where they are, said the International Organization for Migration, IOM, on Tuesday. The UN. On the side of the High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, the concern grows hour by hour about the 4 camps sheltering for years some 96,000 Eritrean refugees in Tigray. The camps must now be short of food, which makes the threat of hunger and malnutrition more real, UNHCR spokesperson Babar Baloch said in Geneva, recalling that the organization was warning against this danger since the beginning of the conflict in Tigray. UNHCR calls on the Ethiopian government to allow aid workers to access those now desperately in need, he added. Still no electricity. Ethiopian Refugee and Returnee Agency Deputy Director General Abiy told AFP on Tuesday that he estimated that there was still food left for the coming week, but admitted his agency had no contact with the camps due to the blackout in the region and could not go there. According to UNHCR, due to current communications and security difficulties that prevent access, it is impossible to verify the current conditions in the camps. Mr. Baloch reported on Tuesday unconfirmed information of attacks, kidnappings, and forced recruitments in these camps, without specifying the perpetrators. The TPLF says it is the work of Eritrean soldiers lending a hand in Tigray to the Ethiopian army, which for its part denies any Eritrean involvement in the fighting. The mobile phone and internet network, cut since November 4, has been re-established in several localities in western Tigray, under the control of the federal army for nearly 3 weeks. It solves many problems, but the problem remains in many areas, and we still do not have electricity, Tedros Ghebreselassie, a resident of Humera, in the north, told AFP. West of Tigray, on the borders of Sudan and Eritrea. A spokesperson for Ethio Telecom, the sole operator in Ethiopia, said he could not give information about its services in Tigray. On Tuesday, the Ethiopian government also announced the surrender of a senior TPLF official, Karia Ibrahim. Speaker of the upper house of the federal parliament, she resigned from her post after parliamentarians voted to postpone all the elections in Ethiopia due to the coronavirus epidemic. Rejecting this decision rendering Mr. Abiy's power illegitimate, the TPLF organized its own regional poll in Tigray, triggering a series of retaliatory measures that would lead to the current conflict.